Welcome to the Foundry by Forge College. Okay, let's jump right into this explainer on defining roles, responsibilities, and finalizing deployment checklists for Solana. If you recall, in our previous lesson on environment setup and readiness, we got our hands dirty making sure our gear was perfectly tuned, right? We checked that RPC endpoints were responding, deployer key pairs were readable, and CI runners were locked and loaded. But today? Well, today, we're taking that raw mechanical setup and establishing the actual operational contract. We're going to structure our process so we can execute our Solana deployment like a highly coordinated heist.
Because, let's face it, having working tools just isn't enough if nobody knows who's actually supposed to press the buttons. There's a saying, a deployment checklist without assigned responsibility becomes a list of hopeful items. And let me tell you, hope is a terrible deployment strategy. Single points of failure are absolutely just as catastrophic in humans as they are in servers. If a checklist just says check logs, but doesn't explicitly say exactly who checks those logs, I guarantee you, nobody is checking the logs.
And that brilliantly illustrates our mindset shift here. We're transitioning away from simple environment checks, pinging RPCs or locating key pairs, and we're moving toward a rigorous operational contract. This means clearly defined roles, explicit escalations, and concrete actions. We're assigning hard ownership to every single task, so there's zero ambiguity when it's finally go time.
So here is our master plan to structure the chaos today. First, the 3 phases of deployment. Second, casting your roles. Third, machine-readable contracts. Fourth, risk mitigations and rollbacks. And finally, finalizing the checklist. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the 3 phases of deployment.
First things first, we've got to ground this abstract process into a strict, linear timeline, so nobody's bumping into each other. Everyone on the team needs to know exactly when handoffs occur. So we divide the whole operation into 3 really pragmatic acts. Step 1 is pre-deploy validation. This is where you validate your local and CI environments. Step 2 is deployment execution, the absolute moment of truth, actually submitting the transaction on-chain. And step 3 is post-deploy verification, where we verify the on-chain state and get our monitoring alerts plugged in. 3 clean, sequential steps.
Moving right along to Section 2, casting your roles. Now, we are assigning operational roles here, not corporate job titles. We've got a build owner, a deployer, an on-chain verifier, and an incident owner. Listen, it totally doesn't matter if you're the VP of engineering or a junior dev. During this specific phase, you wear the hat of the deployer. And here's a massive pro tip for you. Every single role absolutely must have a designated backup assignee. If your primary deployer's internet suddenly drops, boom, the backup steps in immediately. We do not allow bottlenecks here.
Okay, Section 3, machine-readable contracts.
To elevate this from, a casual sticky note to-do list into a real professional standard, we have to translate our human playbook into code that robots can easily understand. So what exactly does machine-checkable actually mean? It refers to success conditions that a computer can verify automatically. Think of checking an RPC response code or verifying specific JSON fields. Guys, this is infinitely more reliable than a tired human squinting at a terminal screen at 2 in the morning, desperately trying to figure out if a deployment really succeeded. When conditions are machine checkable, our CI pipelines and runbooks can just enforce the checklist automatically, without any human bias or ambiguity.
By encoding our tasks into YAML or JSON, we literally make everything explicit. Each atomic action states exactly who does it, like the build owner. It states exactly how to verify it automatically, maybe with an RPC health success check. And crucially, it states when to escalate, like having an escalation timeout of 10 minutes. The machine handles the strict enforcement. The human just handles the strategy. As you might explore in some of our other advanced learning programs at Forge College, mapping these items rigorously guarantees that every single phase has a primary owner and a strict, measurable time limit. You map out the phase, checklist item, primary role, and the escalation timeout. It's clean, it's highly accountable, and it keeps your entire team perfectly synchronized throughout the whole deployment lifecycle.
Next up, Section 4, risk mitigations and rollbacks.
Because let's be totally honest with ourselves, even the most brilliant, perfectly coded plans need an escape route when reality hits. Consider this scenario for a second. What actually happens when the post-deploy verification fails? The transaction went through, sure, but the on-chain state is totally wrong. Look, when things go sideways, panic should never dictate your response. Instead, we need rollbacks built right in as first-class checklist items from the very beginning. So we embed a dedicated rollback step. Let's call it rollback 001. The incident owner is firmly in charge here, and they are ready to execute predefined recovery actions the absolute second a specific trigger, like a post-001 failure, occurs. We aren't making highly stressful gut instinct decisions during a live outage. We're simply executing the contract we already thoughtfully agreed upon when things were calm and quiet.
And that brings us to Section 5, finalizing the checklist.
Before we ever merge this operational contract into our main repository, we have to audit it to ensure absolute completeness. You've got to run a parser or a strict manual validation step against these items. First, validate your JSON or YAML syntax, because seriously, a single missing comma or wrong quote will break your automation entirely. Next, confirm the owner role exists for every single item. Verify the success check type. Ensure your escalation timeout minutes are clearly defined. And lastly, always link to manual documentation. If the automation fails, your operators need a fallback link to an internal runbook so they know exactly what manual commands to execute consistently.
Which leaves us with a final, kind of provocative thought here. Your checklist is now a living, breathing operational contract. But how will your on-chain verifier actually measure that success? Are your key performance indicators actually ready for the spotlight?
Well, this perfect setup tees up our next module brilliantly, where we'll dive into identifying those precise KPIs for Solana applications. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. Make sure to head over to forge.college to master Web3 development, dive way deeper into these concepts, and expand your skills even further. Catch you next time.